we're back.
Welcome back. It's Wednesday.
It's Wednesday. Wonderful world of Wednesday. Wednesdays. All right. So today, well, first of all, we've done some work with theme and summarizing, and I'm sure that you've done fabulously. So we're going to move on and take a look at another skill using our mentor text about Ruby finds a worry. Love Ruby.
She's a cutie.
Even though maybe I'm not supposed to, but I love her.
I know.
Unibrow worry there.
It's a lot.
It's
a lot. As
so
she grows
special.
and grows and grows, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Bigger.
So awesome.
And we hope you've memorized the summarizing song.
Yes, yes. You should, when you come into school.
Torture your family with it.
Right, yes. Sing that for us. We love it. And sing it to all the people you know.
Yes.
They'll love it too. So now that we talked about summarizing in our standard here, that was basically saying by the end of fourth grade, you can read fourth grade text and kind of think about and talk about what you've read. So part of that we said is summarizing, but another really important part of that we want to talk about with you today is making connections.
That light bulb moment. Look at that.
Oh,
I like it.
aha,
I like it.
aha. So why do you think there's a light bulb?
I think it's an aha.
It's an aha. So have you ever had an aha moment when you're reading where you get kind of excited, you're like, oh, I've done that?
And did it make you want to keep reading?
It did, because I always, then you want to see, like, is it going to turn out like when I did that? What, are they going to do what I did? Because now you have, what was it that you were just telling me? Once you are able to do this, you're making a connection. Once you do that,
we're so productive. Then it's just, we just roll with it and we just take off.
I love that,
Awesome.
being productive. Being productive means you make something of the work. You're doing it, and making the learning count if you're being productive. Not just reading words on the page. Once you're able to make those connections, then you start
And it
to
could be
think
in math,
about them.
science. It's not just a reading skill
No.
by any means.
No.
I mean, it could be in any of our classes together. Once you make that connection, your brain lights up, just like that light bulb, and you're off and running.
That's right, and you do it in science, I'm sure, all the time. And in math, there's a lot of real-world application and connections there. And maybe reading some one time, maybe you don't think about it as much. So we're going to make sure that we're starting to think about that and starting to always make those connections. So you might say, well, Miss Paulson, what kind of connections did you make, or Miss Jackson, to our story? First, we're going to talk about the first type of connection. The first type of connection is our text to self. Look, I'm zooming in. Our text to self, and I think those are probably the easiest or most common because we like ourselves.
And they're our first light bulb.
Right. It's our first, so those are the things when you're reading that you've done what the character's done. You felt the way the character has felt. You lived in the place the character lives. Or you love an animal just like they love an animal. Or there's so many different things of text to self connections that can be made while reading.
And Ms. Paulson, I don't think we could have picked a better mentor text for this, because I cannot imagine there's not every single person in fourth grade can connect to reading.
That's right. I know. I don't think there's a single person in this world that can't make a connection.
Should be able to connect to Ruby.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
It's does it remind you of anyone, of yourself in any way? I have a lot of Ruby in me that I worry, and I can completely connect to that feeling of trying to worry and trying to ignore the worry, but then it's still there. And then maybe giving it too much attention, and then I can't do anything else about it. And I've had worries. I had worries last week. And you all helped me. You didn't even know you were helping me. But it helped me to be at school, to have friends like Miss Jackson that I could talk to.
Have you shared with your friends at your dad's home?
I have not.
I think you should.
I have not.
I think you should.
My worry was that my dad was a little sick and he was in the hospital, and some of you know that. Some of you might not have, but that was my worry. And he's home now, and so I actually got to spend a lot of time with him, because now with our pandemic, I couldn't see him when he was in the hospital.
And
That
that's
was
hard.
a worry.
That's hard.
Yeah.
That's really hard
Yeah.
to not be able to see him and to know how he's doing. So
Right.
we're super excited that Mr. Galvin's home.
Right. So
For
that's a big
sure.
thank you to you guys for
Mhm.
helping me get through my worry, and you might not have even known it.
And I shared the connection that when you watched Mrs. Bush do the read aloud of Ruby, she and I both shared the connection that we don't ever find out what Ruby's specific worry is. All we know is she felt better just by talking about it.
Right.
It doesn't matter that we don't know what the worry is. We just know that the worry gets smaller when she connected with a friend
Right.
and they talked about it.
And
So
haven't you done that in life?
we should do it more.
So many times.
We should do it
probably.
more. We try to carry all the worry and the burden around ourselves, and we are surrounded by family and friends at Morningside, and we should do it more.
We should. You're
Mhm.
right.
Absolutely.
You're right.
Absolutely.
So many text to self connections. So I want you to think about what's your connection to this story? How can you connect to Ruby finding a worry? And we may ask you to share that with us later on in an activity today. So what are your connections there? A second type of connection that we make, this is why it's so very important to read, is a text-to-text connection. So a text-to-text connection is when we're reading and we're reminded of something else that we've read. So you're reminded of another story where a character has gone through a similar problem, or they might remind you of another character. Maybe their attitude or the things they enjoy remind you of another character from another story. Those are text-to-text connections. So we say text-to-text.
It's a mouthful.
Connections. So
You'll be happy to know there are no onomatopoeias for me to ask how to spell
no
this week.
onomatopoeia to try to
So
spell.
far, I'm good.
We're good. We're
Mhm.
doing well on spelling.
We have text to self and text to text.
Text to self, text to text. So
Mhm.
I'm trying to think. There is so many books. A book that hopefully we may read later on this year is a chapter book called Tiger Rising. And our main character in that story, his name is Rob, and he's a lot like Ruby. He's a lot like Ruby in that he has some worries. And I'm not going to give away too much, but definitely a great text-to-text connection between those two stories.
I can't wait.
I know.
Can't wait.
We love that story. So, text-to-text is when you think of another story that you're reminded of while reading. A third one. There's three. The third one is our text-to-world.
So much going on in this world.
So much in this world right
So
now.
much going on.
So much. I think that,
And as fourth graders, they're learning
yes.
a great deal about what's going on in the world.
Absolutely. So it's kind of, we can think of how our events that we're dealing with in the real world, how can we relate those to a story? Well, I am sure that all of us were a little worried about coming back to school.
Mhm.
We've been a little worried about not being in school. We've been a
We
little
worry about you guys all the time. Oh my
Yes.
goodness, we haven't seen you in 6 months.
right.
We don't know. How are you doing? Do you miss us? Because we miss you.
Right.
We miss you for sure.
And this is, we all know that the world we're living in is so different that we all worry about it. And I think we have that conversation that helps us not be so worried anymore. So I think seeing each other and on our, just if it's virtual or in real life person, and we get to see that everybody's doing great, that
Just
helps
seeing
us.
each other's faces.
Yes, so much. I felt so much better in the last 3 weeks since we started school than I had in the last 6 months.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I completely understand that. So that's a text-to-world. It's everything that's happening around us. It could even be things you see on TV. It could be music. There could be songs. Did you know that you can think of a book and think of a song that it's like? All of those things are out there. So it's really important that as we're reading, we're making those connections, and it's so you can be productive. Because if I feel like I have a connection with the words on the page.
We're gonna own it, Miss Paulson.
That's right.
We're gonna run with it.
You are. You're going to pay so much more attention to what's happening. We call that being invested.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
Absolutely.
if you have a connection, you're now invested. You want to see if that character does the same things you would have done.
Mm-hmm.
Does the world the character lives in or the place, is it so much like ours? How does it turn out for them? So now you want to see it through to the end. So that helps you just dig down deeper and really think about and focus on the words on the page instead of just reading them as words. Because then now your heart is in it as well as your mind.
Absolutely.
And that's what good readers do.
And there's our light bulb.
That's a light bulb.
Mm-hmm.
Where
There's
is
our light
it?
bulb. Well done, Miss Paulson. Well done.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. So we're going to ask you to make a couple of connections today for your assignments. And then tomorrow we're going to look at some fresh text, some new text, and see what connections you can make to that.
Because we have to practice what we learn. That's how we
Always.
get better.
Every time. So, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Until we read again. Bye.